So now that you've built your resources and applications in the cloud, you have to maintain them. Now this can be done in one of two ways. The way that would be most cloud focused would be to treat them basically like cattle. You don't really care for them, you don't maintain them, you just throw them away and provision new ones. But not everyone is ready for that level of management, or the applications that we're using are still more legacy type applications, and so they're not built to work that way. So what can we do? Well, we have to maintain the systems that we have, and part of that means patching. And I'm going to show you how today with Azure Update Management. I'm Dean Cifola, and this is the Azure Academy. Now, the world of patch management should be very familiar to all of you, since we've had systems on-prem for a very long time that we've had to maintain. And it's basically the same story no matter what tool you use. You have to identify a group of machines, identify some patches that you want to add to those machines, figure what your maintenance window is, deploy the patches, reboot, rinse, repeat. Now, what we're going to go through today is, of course, how we can do this with native tools inside Azure itself without the need of other products or services. Let's take a look at our docs. So we're going to go under products, and then we'll go down to management and governance and to automation. Now, the Azure Automation account is something that we haven't really covered on the Azure Academy before. So let me give you a quick overview. The main capabilities around Azure Automation have to do with running runbooks. So if you're used to Opalus or System Center Orchestrator or Service Management Automation, all these tools are basically runbook driven type tools. Also configuration management, which has to do with collecting inventory, change tracking and monitoring on your systems, and desired state configuration, which would be PowerShell DSC. Same kind of thing that you could do through Chef or Puppet. Then of course, update management. And these things all work on Windows or on Linux systems. Basically, if the operating system is supported in the cloud, it's supported by update management. And then of course, this works for Azure or on premises. And we're going to cover all of those scenarios today. So under the update management section here, we're going to go to the overview real quick. And there's a few key things that I want to point out here. And the first is network planning. And here are the list of the URLs that you need to be able to hit in Azure Government or in the public Azure cloud. And these have to connect over port 443. And if you do need a proxy, you can use that as well. And then at the top under the solution overview, this is the basic way that this solution is going to function. We have in Azure, every VM has the Azure VM agent. Now that agent is how we communicate with the operating system and we pull all of our data. On-prem, we don't have that agent, so we need to deploy one, and that would be the Microsoft Monitoring Agent. It's the same agent that we've used in the past for log analytics. And our automation account is basically going to function as our patch management server, and it's going to take care of understanding all the patches we want to deploy, all the groups we want to set up, and maintenance windows, etc. Let's go over to the Azure portal. And I've already built the automation account that we're going to use for this today, but I want to show you quickly how to deploy one. So we'll go to create a new resource, and we'll type automation, and we'll select that, and we'll hit the create button. And then we just have to give it a name, select our subscriptions, select our resource group and a location where we're going to deploy it. And then we have the option for creating a run as account. Now the run as account for Azure Automation will give us some authentication mechanisms so that we can manage all of our resources in Azure or with our commandlets through Azure Automation runbooks. And basically this will set up a service principal in Azure Active Directory, give it contributor rights over the subscription so that we can do all of our processes. So we're going to need that, and then you would hit the create button, and that'll just take a moment to deploy. The other thing that we're going to need to make this work is a log analytics workspace. Now, we've deployed those several times in the past, so I'll just take you to our resource group for the day here. So here's our automation account that we're going to be using. And in our automation account, we'll go to Update Management. And then we can see I've got one VM already onboarded here, and now we want to add some more. So what we can do for that is there is a plus Azure VMs up here and a link to go to add non-Azure VMs. Now this link takes you out to our docs where it shows you how to download and install the MMA agent. Those of you who did not see our video on log analytics, I'll show you this real quick. From any log analytics workspace, you go to the advanced settings, and then you download the agent. You'll need your workspace ID and your key in order to onboard the VM. And when you do, it looks something like this. And for those of you who are thinking that this looks an awful lot like the System Center Operations Manager agent, that's because it is. And so this VM, along with several others that I have on-prem here, are all set up in Azure. So let's take a look at that. So back in my Azure Automation account, we see that there's a little bubble here that says 6 machines do not have update management enabled, and I can click here to manage them. So when I do, I have the option of turning this on for all available machines, all available and future machines, which is how you onboard new systems. And then I can choose just particular machines that I want. And these are all on premise. So I'll add each one of these, and we'll hit the enable button, and those will start processing and join us for update management. Now I also want to add VMs in Azure. And when I do, I've got these 5 Azure VMs, and we'll onboard those just by clicking the enable button. So the onboarding process for all of our machines has completed. You can see our on-prem and Azure VMs are sharing the same space here, but they are indicated as to what platform they are a part of, as well as what OS they're a part of. Now, as we go down the screen here, we can see critical updates that are missing, security updates, and then other. Then we have the update agent readiness. Now, if any of these say anything other than ready, there'll be a button that you can click, which will walk you through a series of tests to validate that all of the prereqs and settings and ports are all open so that you can do the update management. And likely something in there is wrong. Now, we have all of our VMs listed here, but one of the other critical things when it comes to doing updates is reporting. Now, before we deploy an update, I want to take a look at the current state of our environment, and we're going to find that in the log analytics workspace that is paired with this automation account. So in the blade, if we scroll down, we're going to see the linked workspace, which is just an easy way for us to get there. And then we can click on the link to go to that workspace. And everything in log analytics breaks down into solutions. Now we can look at something like the workspace summary, which will show all of the different solutions that we have loaded. And I'm going to pin this one here to my dashboard, and then let's pop in and take a look at it. So we can see a breakdown of all of our Windows computers and our Linux computers as far as what type of updates they are missing. And then you can do a breakdown further of the missing update types against Windows computers and against Linux computers. And then additionally over here, we have common queries that we can run, and these are all loaded into your log analytics workspace already. So if we wanted to check if we had a computer with automatic updates disabled, we click on that, it loads the query for us, and then we can just hit run. And thankfully, all of our systems are set up, so we don't have anything here. So the queries themselves, you can build them under the Update Management section, but we also have under the Query Explorer solution-based queries where you can just go right here and find all those ones that we saw from the solution itself. So we could click on all computers with missing critical updates, and then we can see all of the particular updates that we are missing. And then you could drill into each of these to find out which machines are missing the particular updates. So this is a good way to do some queries against what it is that you're going to patch for. And then all of your stuff can end up on your dashboard. So I've just made a simple dashboard of all the systems that we have in Azure that we're monitoring, along with the system updates assessment. So we can see the basic breakdown of what we need. And at a glance, you could see if there are systems that need patches. So we'll come back to this once we're done and see what the status is. But let's go back to automation. So now we want to start building our groups and our deployments. So we'll click on the Schedule Update Deployments link at the top. And we need to give this update a name. and I'll just call it Update Thursday. And we have to choose which OS we'll be doing this for. In this case, we'll pick Linux, and then we're going to have a choice of how to create our groups. Either we can use some dynamic group membership, which is what I prefer, or you can use static group membership. Now, this works out if you have created other kinds of groups already, especially within Log Analytics. So jumping back to Log Analytics for a moment, in our workspace, we'll go to the Advanced Settings, then we'll go to the Computer Groups. You can see the group members that we've got, and these group members are all the ones related to our update onboarding. So we could choose to use that group, which would encompass everything, or we can have an Active Directory group if you are linking with Active Directory, and you can import those groups with this checkbox up here. So you can use AD group membership to group systems together if you are doing that already, or use the WSUS groups if you have used that, or config manager groups as well. But for today, we're just going to go back to our automation account, and we're going to do this more dynamically. So we'll click on this first item here to group our systems. All my Linux systems are in Azure. So I'll select all of my subscriptions, and I'm not going to select anything further from the resource groups or locations, but I am going to use my maintenance window tag. So we'll check that, and then we'll hit the preview button, and we can see it has discovered my Linux VMs that are in Azure. So we'll hit OK, and we'll add those to our group and then hit the OK button. So now that we've created a deployment group, we now need to build the deployment itself. So we have our update classifications here, which are critical and security and other. I'll just be selecting the critical and security for our Linux systems. Then we have to build a schedule. Now, the maintenance window is called Thursday, 6 p.m., and this will be in Eastern time since that's where I'm located and where the VMs are located. Then we have the choice of making this a one-time event or a reoccurring event. And if we choose reoccurring, we can make that happen weekly, monthly, daily, or hourly. So depending on how aggressive you are with patching, which also means your systems and applications need to be resilient enough to be able to take outages from any one of their nodes. So plan for that. So this particular update deployment we'll make for weekly, and this will be on Thursdays, and we will not be setting an expiration for this, and we'll hit OK. And now we have the option of adding any pre and post scripting on top of this. Because this is an Azure Automation account that runs this process, we can run runbooks, which are effectively scripts against the systems before or after we do this process. Now, we're not going to do this for the Linux systems because I'll show you how to onboard some of this stuff in a moment. So we'll just hit OK here. We'll set our maintenance window itself, and that's how long we're going to give the systems to patch. And I'll just give it 240 minutes. And then we have the option for reboots, and the default here is reboot if required, which will be dependent on the particular patches that get installed. Or we can install the patches and never reboot if you have some other process around reboots or maintenance window times that you do rebooting. Choose to always reboot, or we can run this as a reboot only and don't install updates. Okay, again, going back to using this for other purposes beyond just update management. So I'm going to set this for reboot if required and hit create. So now that we've created that for our Linux systems, we want to do the same, of course, for Windows. Now, I did mention the pre and post scripting, and for that, we're going to need to take a look at runbooks. So the runbooks, as I said in the beginning, are part of the process automation. Now, for adding all of the stuff that we're going to use around updates, we have to browse into the gallery to find these things, and there are quite a lot of items out here. And if you're interested in more, click the subscribe button and let me know what you'd like to see other videos on, and we'll be happy to create those. We're going to look for update management. Specifically, there's one here for turn on VMs and another for turn off VMs. So we'll import this by clicking on it and then clicking the import button. And you can rename it here if you like, but I'll just leave that alone and hit OK. And then I'll repeat the process here for turn off our VMs. So for now, we'll just go back to the automation account and we can see that we've got our new runbooks here. So if we click on one of these and click the edit button, now in order to use these in our environment, we do have to publish it. So we'll hit yes to publish that runbook and then go back and repeat for the other one. So we'll edit. and then hit the publish and hit yes to complete the publish. So now that those are published, we can now take advantage of them. So we'll go back to Update Management and create a new scheduled update. And we'll call this one Updates Thursday for Windows. And then we'll again create through our dynamic groups. So we'll select all of our subscriptions as well as our maintenance window tag. And we'll hit the preview button here. And those look like the correct VMs. So we'll add those. And then we'll go to our non-Azure and hit preview. And we can see our non-Azure Windows VMs, which that looks good. So we'll hit OK there. And now we have our update classification. So there are some more kinds of updates here on the Windows side, but I'm just going to choose the critical and security patches for the moment. And we also have the option to include or exclude particular updates. So if there is a particular KB that you're aware of that needs to be excluded or included, that's not necessarily part of the update list that we chose, you can enter those KBs here. So for example, I do know one KB that I want to include, and it needs to be without the KB prefix, just to be sure that it's in there. And then we have our schedule. So same kind of thing that we did on the Linux systems. We'll set this for 6 p.m. Eastern time, and we'll make it reoccurring on a weekly basis of Thursday with no expiration. And then we have our pre and post scripts. So we're going to add here the script to turn on our VMs as a pre-script. And then we'll also add turn off VMs as a postscript. So even if our VMs are powered off, then the VMs will turn back on, do their patching, and then turn off once they are complete. So we'll hit OK there, and then I'll make my maintenance window 240 minutes and reboot if required. So we'll go ahead and hit create. And if we look now under our deployment schedules, we can see that we've got our Windows Thursday and Linux Thursday. So if we wanted to, we could click on our Linux Thursday update and we could make some changes here. Perhaps we could add the pre-script and postscript. So we'll do that just to be sure that we've covered that base, and then we'll hit save. So we've come to the magic moment and we've got our jobs running here. And so if we go to the jobs themselves, we've got the runbooks running for validating that all our VMs are powered on, and then we will go into patching them. So you can see the individual jobs for each VM itself, and then we have these Azure jobs, which is the overall job for doing the patch deployment. So this should be done in a few minutes, and once it is, our update management screen will need some time to process everything and do the updates. So we'll take a look at this once it's complete. And all of our systems have completed updating, and they're all showing as compliant. And as you can see, when you mouse over this little tooltip, non-compliant machines are the ones missing critical and security. So they are compliant machines, but we could schedule other software deployments to take care of all of the rest of these missing updates, which you can see definition updates as well as drivers and some other stuff here as well. And looking at the history tab, we can see all the different jobs that have run, and we can use this drop-down menu to filter them. For example, here's all of the jobs that have succeeded and the jobs that have some failure in them. And when we look at these jobs, we can see if the pre-script, post-scripts have run successfully and how long it took the job to run against our maintenance windows, what the start time was of the job, and how many machines were a part of this job. Let's click on this one here that failed. So we see that there were some machines that failed. They happen to all be my on-prem Arc machines. And the reason for this was the machines were powered off. But if we go back to one of the previous jobs that succeeded, and we can see all of these jobs ran in 1 or 0 minutes, showing that there were no further updates necessary for all of these systems. And then inside each of these jobs, you can click on any one of the machines to look at just their logs and inputs. And looking back at our dashboard, we can click on our server update assessment here. We can see that we've got some machines here that are completely up to date, no other patches needed. Others need some of these other patches, but all security and critical updates are reporting good on the Linux side and the Windows side. So I hope that you've enjoyed this look at the Azure Update Management service, a way to easily patch and maintain systems that require that in the cloud with native platform tools, making it very simple to set up, and maintenance is basically zero since it is a platform service, allowing you to patch your Windows, Linux systems, or anything that is on-prem. So if you thought this video was good, hit that thumbs up and click the subscribe button. Join us here at the Azure Academy, where we're all just trying to learn as much as we can about all areas of Azure. And if you have a suggestion or comment on this video, please leave me a comment down below and let me know what it is that you're thinking, what new videos you'd like to see on the Azure Academy. We'll be happy to make those for you. And if you want an email notification when our videos come out, which is roughly once a week, then you can click on the notification bell as well. Thanks very much for joining us, and we will see you next time. Happy learning.